These huge, very destructive feral pigs running wild there for decades and now for the first time being spotted in the United States.
Well, around 16, 17 plus, we don't know for sure, million pigs. Some say up to 23 million pigs.
Millions of feral pigs roam across the United States.
It's not from the United States. It was brought over some 500 years ago as a livestock species, and as they progressed across the United States, some of them were just trickled out and left along the way.
Tearing through farmland, contaminating waterways, and spreading diseases that often go unreported.
This is something that is impacting every American, whether it be directly at the farm level or indirectly as a consumer.
Their population grows faster than any current system can control.
We are definitely in the hot seat for pig numbers and populations and damage here.
We see it in almost every field and every farm.
Creating a nationwide crisis that receives far less attention than it deserves.
Like down here in Matagorda County, I would say that this is probably the worst hog damage as far as crops go in a big region of Texas coast.
They are one of the largest uncontrolled meat sources in America, yet they remain untouched. And the reasons are far more disturbing than people assume, rooted in contamination, failed policy, and public fear. The invasion nobody saw coming. America's feral pig disaster did not happen by accident. It began slowly, driven by human ambition, careless decisions, and a deep failure to understand how tough and adaptable these animals truly were. During the 1930s, Russian boars were brought into the United States for sport hunting and for exotic meat farming. At the time, landowners believed they could control these animals just like cattle or domestic pigs, but that belief was wrong from the start. These boars were stronger, smarter, and far more aggressive than expected. They were not built for pens or fences, and they were never meant to stay contained. Game ranches and private farmers kept them behind weak barriers that could not withstand storms, floods, or time. When fences broke, repairs were delayed or ignored. Once free, Russian boars mixed with domestic pigs that had already escaped farms over the years. The result was a new kind of animal that combined size, strength, intelligence, and brutal survival instincts. These hybrids were harder to kill, harder to track, and far more dangerous. As their numbers grew, the pigs spread fast. They pushed through forests, wetlands, farmland, and the edges of towns. Wherever they went, they tore the ground apart. Their constant digging ripped up soil, destroyed plant roots, and left deep scars across the land. Fields were ruined overnight. Forest floors were stripped bare. Wetlands turned foul as mud and waste washed into streams and ponds. Clean water sources became polluted, and fragile habitats collapsed under the damage. These pigs eat almost anything they find. Crops disappear. Nests are crushed and eggs are eaten. Small animals, insects, reptiles, and even dead remains are consumed without pause. Today, feral pigs are established in at least 45 states. Their ability to reproduce is terrifying. One female can give birth to large litters multiple times a year, producing up to 24 piglets annually. Even when thousands are killed, the population can recover in just a few months. The financial cost is massive, rising above $2.5 billion each year. The environmental cost is even worse. Soil erosion, poisoned water sources, and the slow death of native species leave damage that may never be undone. But the most dangerous consequences appear where feral pigs are most heavily concentrated. And no place shows this crisis more clearly or more violently than Texas. Texas's full-scale pig war. Texas stands at the center of a slow and terrifying disaster that keeps growing every year. Feral pigs have spread across nearly the entire state, with estimates reaching close to 3 million animals. This did not happen overnight. Mild winters allow feral pigs to breed without pause, and wide stretches of farmland give them food every single month of the year. With few natural predators and limited control resources, their numbers surge faster than local governments can respond. What began decades ago as a manageable nuisance has now turned into a statewide emergency that feels impossible to contain. In rural counties, there are not enough workers, funds, or equipment to slow the spread. In suburban areas, the damage is impossible to ignore. Pigs rip apart parks, tear through golf courses, and destroy drainage systems meant to prevent flooding. Homeowners wake up to security footage showing dozens of animals roaming yards at night.
Wild hogs cause a lot of destruction, and researchers estimate around $2.5 billion in agricultural damage.
Trash bins are flipped over. Barns are broken into. Vehicles are dented and scratched as pigs force their way through tight spaces. The financial cost is staggering. Texas loses more than $52 million every year, and that number is widely believed to be far too low. Many farmers do not report losses because there is no real compensation and no meaningful relief. Crops such as cotton, sorghum, peanuts, rice, hay, and vegetables are destroyed before harvest. Feed meant for cattle and poultry becomes soaked with urine and feces, spreading disease through entire herds. Fences are smashed, letting valuable livestock escape or injure themselves. Even after pigs are removed, the soil remains damaged, compacted, and stripped of nutrients, reducing future yields for years. The land itself is being torn apart. Pigs push into rivers, ponds, and creeks, churning mud and releasing bacteria such as E. coli into the water. Wetlands that once supported birds and amphibians are ripped open and left barren. In some areas, the ground is so destroyed that it resembles land ruined by heavy industrial digging. Despite intense efforts such as aerial shooting, night hunts, and large trap systems, Texas removes only a fraction of the pigs needed each year. Many counties now admit openly that they are losing control. As pigs spread, they move deeper into human spaces, creating scenes that shock even seasoned officials. In multiple counties, pigs have entered cemeteries at night. They dig into fresh soil, overturn headstones, and tear into burial plots while searching for worms and decaying organic matter. Groundskeepers arrive in the morning to find disturbed graves and exposed burial liners. Families are devastated, and counties often repair the damage quietly to avoid public outrage. And beneath all this overwhelming physical destruction lies a much darker issue that explains why using these pigs for food is not a simple solution. The hidden health hazard. Feral pigs are not just wild animals roaming freely across the land. They are uncontrolled carriers of disease shaped by years of exposure to the dirtiest environments humans create and abandon. These animals survive by eating anything that smells edible. They consume rotting carcasses left on roadsides. They dig into garbage dumps filled with spoiled food and animal remains. They root through polluted soil soaked with waste. Every meal loads their bodies with bacteria, viruses, and parasites that farm animals are never exposed to. Domestic pigs live behind fences, receive vaccines, and are monitored by veterinarians.
Smoking, drying, and pickling will kill any bacteria that are present in the meat.
Feral pigs live in filth and chaos with no protection and no limits. This lifestyle turns their bodies into breeding grounds for infection. Researchers and wildlife agencies have confirmed that feral pigs can carry more than 20 diseases that spread directly to humans. One of the most dangerous is brucellosis. This disease attacks the joints, liver, heart, and nervous system. It causes constant pain, crushing fatigue, and lasting organ damage. Victims can suffer for years. Many people never get a correct diagnosis because early symptoms feel like the flu. Fever, aches, and weakness are easy to dismiss. Every year, new cases tied to wild pigs appear quietly in medical records, while many more go undetected and untreated. Parasites make the danger even more severe. Trichinella worms hide inside pig muscle. When infected meat is not cooked thoroughly, the worms enter the human body and spread through muscle tissue. This causes months of fever, swelling, muscle pain, and weakness. Some victims struggle to walk or work for long periods. Other parasites are just as threatening. Roundworms can damage the lungs and liver. Tapeworm cysts can grow in the brain and eyes. Toxoplasmosis can cause miscarriage or serious birth defects. These risks are invisible to the eye and impossible to detect without testing. Bacteria add another layer of threat. Many feral pigs carry harmful strains of E. coli and Salmonella. When pigs trample crops or defecate near irrigation water, bacteria spread into food systems. Outbreaks linked to contaminated produce have raised alarms about wildlife contact, with feral pigs identified as a major concern. Scientists also warn about pigs acting as disease mixers. Pigs can catch flu viruses from birds, livestock, wildlife, and humans. When several strains infect one pig at the same time, the viruses can mix and change. This process can create new flu strains that spread faster or hit harder. Experts have warned that feral pigs increase this risk because they move freely between farms, wetlands, and human areas. This concern receives little public discussion because of fear and uncertainty. The danger spikes during hunting and processing. Field dressing releases blood and fluids into the air. Hunters often work without gloves or masks. Small cuts allow bacteria to enter the bloodstream. Several states have reported rising infections tied to wild pig handling, but many cases are never officially linked due to weak reporting systems. Where pigs pick up these diseases makes everything worse. Feral pigs regularly raid landfills filled with spoiled food, animal carcasses, diapers, and medical waste. Wildlife officers have documented pigs leaving these sites coated in contaminated mud and trash residue. These animals then travel miles across the countryside. Pigs also wallow in sewage ponds and runoff channels that collect human waste. These waters contain salmonella, shigella, and parasite eggs that survive for long periods. When pigs move from sewage sites to farm fields, they carry human waste pathogens directly into food production areas. All of these behaviors explain why feral pigs carry disease combinations rarely seen in regulated livestock. Their meat carries risks that are unpredictable and often invisible.
If a person becomes ill after the consumption of wild pig meat, some of the clinical signs they may experience include flu-like symptoms.
These health dangers alone would justify avoiding the meat. Yet the strongest barrier is not fear of disease. It is the legal system that blocks feral pigs from entering the American food chain. Legal barriers and commercial limits. In the United States, feral pigs are legally defined as invasive pests, not livestock. This classification changes everything. Livestock laws require animals to be inspected before slaughter. A pig killed in the wild cannot meet this requirement. The rule exists because wild pigs are far more likely to carry disease, suffer contamination during death, and be handled without safety controls. This legal wall was built after decades of failed attempts to manage wild pig populations. As pig numbers exploded and disease risks grew, regulators chose containment over use. Allowing wild-killed pigs into the food system would create massive safety risks that cannot be tracked or controlled. Between 2017 and 2019, only 17 facilities in the country were approved to process wild pigs. These facilities require pigs to be captured alive, transported under strict biosecurity rules, and slaughtered in controlled environments. This process is dangerous, expensive, and unrealistic for most landowners and hunters.
On a huge population of super pigs that have been running wild in the Saskatchewan wilderness for decades.
Capturing a live feral pig is risky. These animals are aggressive, powerful, and unpredictable. Transporting them spreads disease and risks escape. Escaped pigs have started new infestations in areas once considered safe. Even when pigs reach a certified facility, the meat faces intense testing. Every carcass must be checked for parasites, bacteria, and contamination. This testing takes time and money. Many pigs fail inspection and are destroyed. For landowners, the cost often exceeds the value of the meat. Transport itself creates more problems. Moving live pigs spreads disease across regions. Trucks, cages, and equipment can carry bacteria from one area to another. Regulators fear that expanding transport would worsen outbreaks rather than solve them. As a result, millions of feral pigs are killed each year with no legal way to use the meat. The animals are destroyed to protect farms, ecosystems, and public health. This creates a disturbing contradiction. A massive source of meat exists, yet laws, disease risks, and logistics keep it completely out of reach. Even if health testing improved and facilities increased, legal resistance would remain strong. Officials fear that opening markets would encourage illegal transport, unregulated slaughter, and deliberate spread of pigs for profit. This leaves the country trapped. Feral pigs destroy land and spread disease, yet their meat cannot be sold or shared legally. And even if laws changed, another barrier would still stand. Cultural fear and deep discomfort keep most Americans from wanting feral pig meat at all. Cultural stigma and fear of the unknown. Across the United States, feral pigs have earned a reputation that is dark, disturbing, and deeply ingrained. They are widely seen as filthy, dangerous animals that thrive in decay and destruction. This belief did not form through rumor or exaggeration.
Transmission of disease in feral pigs depends on the disease itself. Sometimes it can be through direct contact with the infected animal.
It grew from repeated and unsettling encounters that people experienced firsthand over many years. In many rural and semi-rural areas, residents regularly watch pigs rip open trash bags, scatter rotting food across yards, and drag animal remains into open spaces where children and pets might wander. People see pigs emerge from drainage ditches connected to sewage systems, with their bodies soaked in contaminated water and waste that carries strong odors. These sights create a lasting impression that does not fade with time or explanation. News coverage strengthens this fear rather than calming it. Stories circulate about pigs charging people who are walking dogs or checking mail. Reports describe pets being injured or killed in fenced yards. Drivers share accounts of sudden collisions on highways where pigs appear without warning, causing serious injuries and costly damage. Videos show pigs wandering through neighborhoods late at night, overturning bins behind medical clinics, nursing homes, and funeral facilities, where waste is often sensitive and distressing. Residents describe pigs rooting through dumpsters that contain used gloves, blood-soaked materials, and decomposing waste. Even when these stories spread quietly through communities rather than national media, they leave a powerful mark. Fear grows through shared experience rather than official warnings or reassurances. Sociologists note that repeated exposure to these events can cause collective anxiety in communities, transforming the presence of pigs into a near-mythical threat and amplifying rumors and exaggerations over time. Hunters reflect this fear clearly. Surveys and interviews show that many hunters who harvest deer or turkey refuse to eat feral pig meat. They worry about parasites that live inside muscle tissue. They worry about strange odors that rise during cooking and cling to kitchens. They worry about dark meat that looks unhealthy and unfamiliar. Even when told that proper cooking destroys bacteria, they cannot separate the meat from the animal behavior and environment they have witnessed. Hunters often recount stories of tracking pigs through muddy swamps, only to find them wallowing in stagnant pools of water contaminated with algae, chemicals, and human refuse. Such encounters reinforce the idea that feral pigs are carriers of disease, unpredictable in behavior, and unfit for human consumption. Restaurants understand this mindset and rarely challenge it. Most avoid wild pig dishes entirely. Customers associate pigs with disease, destruction, and risk rather than nourishment. As a result, many pigs are killed and left behind. Control replaces consumption as the dominant response. This reaction stands in sharp contrast to Europe and Asia, where wild pig meat is respected and celebrated. In countries like Italy, wild boar is carefully hunted, tested, and prepared for traditional dishes like ragu or prosciutto. But in the United States, fear born from lived experience overwhelms tradition, curiosity, and opportunity. And even when someone manages to push past this fear, another barrier quickly appears. The meat itself often proves just as troubling as the animal reputation: the unpredictable taste and meat quality. Feral pig meat presents a serious challenge because it lacks consistency at every level. Unlike domestic pigs raised under controlled conditions, feral pigs eat whatever they find in their surroundings. Their diet changes constantly depending on location, season, weather, and nearby human activity. One pig may feed on crops for weeks and appear healthy. Another may survive on garbage, carcasses, and waste pulled from ditches or landfills. This uncontrolled feeding directly affects how the meat smells, tastes, and feels once the animal is harvested. Hunters describe the experience of cutting into a carcass only to discover that the texture of the meat is unusually tough, or that fat deposits are excessively oily or discolored. These inconsistencies create immediate problems for anyone hoping to cook or preserve the meat, turning what might have been a meal into a potential source of nausea or food waste. Many hunters report that the quality of meat varies wildly from one animal to the next, even within the same area. Some cuts appear normal while others release a sharp, offensive smell the moment they are opened. The odor can fill a room and cling to clothing and equipment. Older male pigs are especially problematic. As they age, hormones and bacteria build up in their bodies and produce what hunters call boar taint. This odor is strong, persistent, and immediately recognizable to those who have encountered it before. It often resembles ammonia or rot. Cooking does not remove it. Smoking does not neutralize it. Seasoning does not hide it. Once present, the meat becomes nearly impossible to eat without discomfort or nausea. Even careful aging or refrigeration cannot guarantee elimination of the odor. Hunters often recount wasted hours of processing, only to discard large portions of meat that have become unsalvageable. Worse still, age is difficult to judge in the field, especially during nighttime hunts or fast-moving encounters. Hunters sometimes discover problems only after skinning and processing has begun. By then, hours of work and planning have already been invested. Younger pigs usually offer better meat, but contamination risks remain even with small animals. Pigs move freely through polluted environments without restriction. They wallow in standing water that carries chemical runoff. They feed in fields treated with pesticides and fertilizers. Some roam landfills, industrial dumping areas, and abandoned properties where unknown substances collect. Hunters report encountering pigs with embedded metal fragments, plastic, or even rat poison in their stomachs, complicating processing further. Fat that appears gray, yellow, or brittle instead of white and firm can indicate chemical exposure or disease. Organs may look swollen, discolored, or damaged. These signs raise serious concerns, yet there is no system to investigate them because most feral pigs are not processed through regulated facilities. Each animal becomes an isolated case with no oversight or follow-up, leaving hunters to rely on instinct and caution alone. Domestic pork avoids these risks through standardization. Farm pigs eat controlled feed. Their health is monitored from birth to processing. Their age and condition are known, but feral pigs offer none of this certainty. Every animal becomes a gamble. One bad experience is enough to turn people away permanently and spread warnings through hunting communities. Even when pigs appear healthy externally, subtle signs such as abnormal fat deposits or unusual muscle color can undermine confidence. Without reliable taste or safety, there is no way to build trust with consumers. This unpredictability blocks any attempt to turn wild pig meat into a stable food source. Other countries have addressed this problem through strict systems, but the United States has not, and that failure reveals a deeper issue. The combination of an inconsistent environment, unpredictable diet, and lack of regulatory oversight makes feral pigs a culinary gamble few are willing to take. Lessons from the world: can America adapt? Many countries face problems with feral pigs, yet their response differs sharply from that of the United States. In places such as Italy, Germany, France, Japan, and South Korea, wild pig meat has long been part of daily life rather than an emergency measure. These societies developed systems that accept risk but work to control it. Hunting seasons are regulated and enforced. Hunters receive formal training focused on safety, disease awareness, and humane handling. Carcasses are inspected by professionals before entering markets. Meat that fails testing never reaches the public. These systems grew slowly alongside cultural acceptance, shared responsibility, and consistent government involvement. In Germany, for instance, hunters must pass rigorous exams to qualify for licenses, and boar meat is only allowed to enter commercial channels after certified health checks. In Japan, wild boar meat is a special delicacy known as inoshishi, and IT is served in specialized restaurants where preparation and sourcing are meticulously controlled. These traditions not only manage risk but also create pride, knowledge, and economic benefit within local communities. Australia and New Zealand offer another model that reflects a different attitude. Both countries face severe environmental damage caused by feral pigs that destroy crops, wetlands, and native species. They treat pigs as destructive pests, but also recognize their potential as a food source rather than pure waste. Their approach relies on commercial harvesting programs with strict oversight and clear rules. Animals are tracked, tested, and processed under controlled conditions. Supply chains are monitored closely. Damage is reduced while meat enters the market safely and predictably. In New Zealand, feral pig hunting licenses and commercial permits are closely tied to population control efforts. Processors test meat for diseases like leptospirosis or trichinosis, creating a reliable product that consumers can trust. Australia combines ecological management with culinary opportunity, integrating feral pigs into specialty markets while keeping populations in check. These systems succeed because population size, enforcement, and public trust align closely. But the United States lacks this alignment on every level. Feral pig populations are massive and spread across wide regions that include private land, public land, and protected areas. Disease risks vary by state and season. Laws differ widely and often conflict, creating confusion for hunters and processors. In many areas, commercial sale of wild pig meat is restricted or prohibited entirely. Inspection systems are fragmented, underfunded, or non-existent. Cultural resistance makes the situation worse. Many Americans simply do not want wild pig meat on their plates, regardless of testing or preparation. Fear overrides curiosity and caution turns into rejection. This exposes a harsh reality. The feral pig crisis has expanded beyond simple management. Turning pigs into a major food source sounds logical on paper, but reality is far more dangerous and complex. The scale is too large, the risks are too high, the cultural barriers are too strong and deeply rooted. What remains is not only an environmental issue, it is a public health concern, an agricultural threat, and a growing national liability. The problem continues to spread, and the window for simple solutions has already closed. Without coordinated federal leadership, widespread cultural acceptance, and rigorous regulatory oversight, the United States may continue to respond with fear, waste, and missed opportunity for decades to come. Make sure to click the cards on the screen now for more interesting videos.